Welcome back everyone to Aeon Drive, where we are returning back to our normal tournament now in the top 16 runners. We had a bit of fun there with the guys who showcased the game for us, some of the bigger names, so well done there to not Fuzziness. I was going to say Fuzziness won it, but he did not. He lost in the last couple of minutes there to Squilla, so well done Squilla to winning that. So we are going to go into now this top 16 game between Grondious and VeganTyler, finally making our way into Sector 3 after dragging in Sector 2 all day yesterday. I'm here with Catherine, and Catherine, what are you going to find of this game? I'm really looking forward to it.
Oh, wow. I am still on a high from the last game where we saw the runners tied to the 100th of a second. That was absolutely thrilling. I can't wait to see what we're going to see here in this round over. I forgot. There's Sector 3 right now. And this is kind of a new sector for today. And it's going to be exciting to see that the new backgrounds, the colors, the whole theming of the level.
Green,
and I can't. I'm sorry?
It's green. It's a green level.
Is it? No. That's not green. It must be lime or chartreuse or something.
We've been waiting for this day. Been waiting for the green to come into this game, and it is awesome. And it's been mixed with purple. This is the dream.
This is the dream. And it looks like we have at least one green character. The other one is a sort of an off shade. A more reddish shade of green than we're used to. And as we know, green is the superior color to play with, the fastest color to play with.
Green is most definitely the fastest color to play with on this game. And speaking of this game, it's finally out. We've been talking about this game coming out now all week, and it came out today. And I don't know actually what it is in American money, but in English money, it's currently less than a tenner, which is awesome. There's nothing
money,
for the amount of effort.
It's about $15, and it's on sale actually through Steam as well. So it is a very good value for the money. And as we have seen, these runners are absolutely enjoying this game and just really running it hard to try to get the very best time they can.
Yeah, because that's how this tournament's being run. We're giving these guys 30 minutes to go through a single level. So they got to find the route that's best for them and then begin optimizing it and shaving their time down as close as possible. Which gets quite interesting, because in that last game we saw, they actually ran 2 different routes throughout the whole time and still had times that were so insanely close.
Indeed, and it's really thrilling to see them run through and try to choose the different routes and just experiment and find the movements that they need to find. In the last match, we did see a lot of experimentation between going with diagonal moves with the dash dagger and maybe or instead sliding to just find which animation is best for that particular area and which one also gets them where they need to go.
Yeah, absolutely. And, we've talked about this before and we'll probably talk about it again, but some of the runners have pointed out as well that the dash dagger, it looks very fast, but in some situations, that animation, that frame lag that you get as you move through it, and the way that you stick to walls, sometimes it's faster than just to jump or slide.
Indeed, and that sliding motion is really useful, especially on long flat surfaces, because it does give them a definite speed boost as they're moving along, and it'll be interesting. I think we probably are going to see more of that as they start perfecting these levels, but already we are seeing some of that sliding to help them get along a little bit further.
Yeah, and as they get along these levels, you'll notice that there's a lot of moving parts to them. There's enemies, there's platforms that are moving. In some of the other levels, the laser bars move and there's saws. And the interesting thing about that is that it means that depending on when the runner arrives at that section of the level, the lineup to things could be very different. So the down diagonal dagger that they throw may hit a platform one time, and the next time it might not. So it's really important that although as they get faster, they do start to learn the level more, they also need to try and be consistent as they move their way forwards.
Indeed. And we've seen that a lot in the previous matches that we've commentated and just watched, where as they're getting faster and moving better, stuff is in different positions, and sometimes that has caused them quite a lot of problems. Sometimes it's actually been a lot more beneficial. I remember one of the last matches you and I commentated where the runners, they had this very awkward section where they had to jump over a saw, and they had to jump before it and jump after it. And I just felt like, geez, this feels wrong, because as a speedrunner, you really want to have fluid movement through the whole thing. But eventually, once they found that key to getting past the beginning in a very quick motion, which kind of involved, I think, at least 2 sets of up diagonal dash daggers, then there was no jump before the saw. They could just jump straight over it, and it saved them even more time because those traps were in different positions.
Yeah, and it's like you say, you know, this game has been built for speedrunning. It's been built around the idea of moving quickly. So you do have to ask, when you feel like you're lagging in the air, when you feel like your jump is not efficient, is there something different that you should be doing? Is that definitely the right route? And like you say, in that level we were talking about there, it turned out it was not the right route. The right thing to do was to throw that dagger over the top of the saw. So Grondious has just put up a wicked time of 11:43, which has taken him over VeganTyler, who I couldn't tell you the microseconds, but they're on a 13-second at the moment. I think it's 13:4. So, you know, it's still 2 seconds between them or so. But, you know, with 25 minutes still on the clock, there's still a lot of working out to do. It looks like Tyler is still just testing certain parts of the level rather than running the whole thing in one go. Looks like he's breaking it up into segments, planning out how you're going to do each of those segments, and then he's going to run it through. But he does need to be careful around doing that, because like I said, as things line up in the level, if you're not there at the same time the next run, they might not be in the same place.
Indeed, VeganTyler is also really taking his time to explore the levels, kind of trying to go up and down and see, you know, what is the most efficient? Where am I going to get maybe the best pathing, even if they cannot actually test the positions of the platforms, the moving items in there yet. They're just kind of looking around and seeing, you know, where things are, which way to go, which way is most efficient to go. Because, my goodness, there just seems like there's walls everywhere. But, you know, we can see them just looking around and just testing, and it's really cool to see that process that they're going through, because now is not the time for optimizing. Now is the time of kind of like figuring out which is the best route, then maybe doing a bit of optimizing and seeing how far that gets them. Because, you know, maybe, and it might take a long time to optimize a certain level with the moving components, but it's wise to kind of figure out both routes that they could go, or whatever combination of routes that they can go, to hopefully get that fastest time.
Absolutely, yeah, and it's like you say, you know, this is the time for them to be testing, and we've seen it too many times where runners get too hooked onto a route early on, and they begin optimizing it and working really hard on it, and they end up getting that muscle memory in place, only to then change their route. They really need to spend the first 10 minutes sort of looking around the map, finding the best route, and then work on optimizing it in the last 15-20 minutes or so. Because if they're optimizing too early, they might be optimizing the wrong route, and they could be losing out a lot. And the thing is although when it's not optimized you might not see the time in its best form, most runners will have a general feel of how fast it felt, how many times they were slowed down by the environment or their own inputs. And, you know, if it's the environment, fine, then that route isn't fast, but if it's their inputs, then they should know how much time they can add onto that run.
Right. And yeah, they're really just experimenting with all kinds of things, which is the perfect thing to do. One thing I want to remark on here is just the green really does look beautiful, and I love it with that orange background. This is kind of a more sunny day, or brighter, cheerier atmosphere than we have seen in previous chapters or sectors that we've been in. They've been kind of gloomy, moody, and even though this one has this kind of still sort of post-apocalyptic feel to it, it feels a lot, I don't know, it's more bright and friendly than the other sectors that we've seen so far. So I'm really excited that there is such diversity in the game, and we get to see different atmospheres being presented here. Makes the game more pleasant to run.
It's really interesting you brought that up, because I was just thinking myself actually how much less claustrophobic this level feels, Catherine. The other levels
indeed.
we had with the dark backgrounds and the you can see the depth in this one as it's layered everything back, but the closest level felt closer in the especially in sector 1, where it was like that deep purple on the orange platforms. This one feels so much more open, and I think it might be to do with the lack of floor as much, maybe. I'm not sure, but it definitely feels a lot less, claustrophobic than previous levels, which is, it's nice. And you've got that one section there where they seem to go as if they're inside a building. If you imagine the platforms are edges of buildings, and there's a point where they go inside with that purpley background. And just for that one moment, you do feel that claustrophobia starting to come in, but it's such a brief moment that the rest of the level just feels so open. And maybe that's why this level feels like there's more exploration to be done around the route. Maybe it's because it feels open that it looks like there should be more routes.
Yeah, I completely agree. It's and I think part of the openness is the sky portion of this. Previously, we have seen the background be just completely covered in skyscrapers and buildings and all of this like wonderful tech future that's the imagination of the artists of this game. And this one definitely has that openness, and I really agree about having the buildings that you mentioned where they're going into these sort of enclosed spaces, and it kind of connects you also to the background. It's not just random platforms here and there, though they are kind of mysteriously floating in space, but we'll just call that technology. But every now and again, you do enter one of these buildings, and there are like, props and tables and things that are like, okay, this used to be something. I guess maybe this is just a massive parkour that we're kind of going through these abandoned places and figuring out how to get through them the quickest way, because they are clearly ruined buildings. They have openings in places where one would not normally have them, I would say.
Grondious just put up an incredible time there, 10.91 seconds on that last run. It'll be interesting to see how low they get these times down, because initially, like I was just saying, it felt like an open level. It felt like it was quite a long one. But now that they're starting to get into it, and having watched Grondious's last run, I think there's still a lot of optimization there. I think we could be seeing a 9.5 time on this level, with these guys still having 20 minutes to work out how they're best going to get through it.
Oh, absolutely. I completely agree. As we've seen in the past, the runners just kind of keep optimizing and are go through that creative process of like, instead of throwing the dagger straight, I can throw it diagonally and get to this section faster, or kill an enemy with a slide instead of the sword swing, or kind of using other tools at their disposal once they feel very comfortable with where they're going. Once they've had that kind of like mental, okay, this is the path I need to take, let's figure out how to get that way the fastest.
Exactly, and that's why these 30-minute matches are so much more interesting to me. The 10-minute matches that were for the top 64, they felt so much more chaotic, and there was less opportunity to express skill. Whereas these ones, there's so much time for the runners to learn the levels and express how skillful they are.
Yeah, I completely agree with that. It's really interesting to watch the evolution of the players as they have been doing these matches. Now, in our previous matches, we found out that the players to qualify for this tournament, and there were 64 out of over 4,000 runners that did qualify. They had to practice a lot to get into the tournament, but after that, they were allowed to play their levels, and I believe they were not allowed to practice in between. So it was kind of an interesting situation there, where you could really see the players like, okay, this is a new level, this is how do we do this, and it was cool to just see them like get better and better and better at the levels they were running at the time.
Yeah, absolutely, and it's interesting to see how quickly they read these levels. That's why I'm so excited to see where this game goes as it grows. You see, Grondious just went past it. Tyler will go past it on this next run round. There's a small diamond in like a little alcove, and it's something that maybe we can move things around to try and like create some randomness to the route, so there's more reading in the level, so there's more variety in the routes for these sort of races where, true speed running, you take the same game and everyone has the same opportunities and the same chance to run it, to grind their times down. But maybe this game can be expanded, so you have that still, the leaderboards for each of these levels, and the leaderboards are public, they're online. If you buy the game now on Steam, you can go and add your score to those leaderboards. But maybe for these tournament formats, we can really start challenging these people to look around for different and more creative routes.
I completely agree with that. Collecting one or more diamonds, even if they're in a direction opposite from the goal, as we have seen in that tiny little alcove with the diamond in this level, that would be a great thing for the runners to have to do. Maybe they would have to collect multiple different items in different parts of the level, upper, lower, middle routes. And that would add a huge variety and puzzle to actually figuring out the fastest times for these levels. Because one person might go for the lower diamond first, then the other one might go for the upper one, and then, top to bottom, bottom to top. And then having those different obstacles at the end would be an interesting way to see how they get through these levels. That would be an awesome tournament. I like that idea, Avalon.
Yeah, definitely would be cool. And Grondious there almost breaking that 10-second mark as he knocks another, 0.9 of a second off his time. I wanted to say another second, but we're too precise to be so flippant with terms, It's not quite another second off, but nearly breaking that 10-second mark. So really fast time. I do genuinely think we're going to see that sub 9, that sub 10, sorry, on this course. On the point that you made earlier about what the players could and couldn't play before this tournament went live, we're actually very lucky in that Game Guy is in the chat. And Game Guy has been with us in the chat through every single one of these games. He's been a huge support to us as a team. But more importantly, he is a runner, and you'll see him soon. And he's pointed out that over the past 24 hours, they actually had access to Sector 1 and 2, which is great for them to, expand their skill set and learn more about the levels. However, this is Sector 3. This is new to these runners, and this is why I want to see more Sector 3 levels, more new levels, because it means that you get to see the quick thinking from the runners as they plan things through. That, again, the first 10 minutes, I would hope, is all discovery for these guys, working out how am I going to get through this quickly. And then from then on, it is the optimization, because it looks now like Grondious is trying to have a look around the level a little bit, see if there's something he can optimize or speed up somewhere else, which is all well and good, but we've only got 15 minutes left. Even if he finds a quicker route, has he got time to actually optimize that?
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see the answer to that question. And I think you're right, though. If he starts to focus on the route that he already knows, he probably can get that sub 9 in here, or sub 10. One thing I wanted to point out about the different sectors is that we have already seen that different sectors have different kinds of obstacles in them. And I don't think we have one in this particular level, but in the level that we watched previously, there were these ground blocks that you had to break. And those were not in Sector 1 and 2, which is kind of an important thing to note, that the runners were not allowed to practice this sector. So that was a new thing for them to see, and it's really cool to see how they deal with all those new obstacles with the skill set that they already have, with the tools that they have been practicing with.
Well, I'm actually very glad that you brought that up, Catherine, because I want to talk about 2Awesome's incredible game design choices in this. So talking about the level you've just mentioned, you had those breakable wall/floors, but that first level that they went through with them, you actually couldn't leave the starting area unless you learn to break one of those to actually proceed, which is just amazing. It's working out, how are you going to present this information to the player over 100 levels that have all been handcrafted for speed. So it is really great to see these guys do that. And there is that sub 10 seconds from Grondious, a really clean run whilst I was banging on about game design. Grondious is too busy maximizing his gameplay. 9.66 on that is insanely fast, and it is almost a 2.5 second gap between the two runners now.
What do you predict? Is there going to be a sub 9?
I still think 9.5 is where we're going to start seeing 0.01 of a second difference. I don't think we'll get a sub 9 in the time left, but I think once this game goes public, the game is now public, I think we could see a sub 9 on this game when people have got time to actually experiment properly. Because you've got to remember, obviously, this is a tournament. As much as they probably want to go and find the fastest route, is it the fastest route? Have they had the time to work that out? We don't know what they're thinking, what they're planning, and how much is the timer actually affecting their gameplay.
Indeed. Gosh, I just got so lost in what you said. I am having trouble pressing more words for it. I'm just absolutely mesmerized by these two runners and what they're doing, and it'll be interesting to see if they're going to go for that sub 9.5. VeganTyler definitely needs to start optimizing at this point because there's only 11 and a half minutes left, and they still need to post a time that's better than Grondious's. But they still seem to be quite experimenting or just feeling their way through the level here.
Yeah, and with Grondious having such a great time on the board already, they're able to actually go and explore a little bit further. You see them keep trying. There's I want to say pixel perfect, but this game is a little bit forgiving sometimes. That they're trying to land their dash dagger on the very corner here, and you can see that's the fastest route that they're going for now. They've missed it a couple of times, and rather than just instantly resetting, they're practicing. They're getting that perfect, so that one run, they will go through the whole thing without any issue at all, and that run will be so fast.
Oh yes, and it's really wise of them to keep doing the later parts of the level because until you have that absolutely down, it's definitely worth practicing because you could have a perfect first part of the level, but then really flub it in the second part if you don't already know it just down pat. So it's really wise to just keep going through as much as you can and just get that practice, because in this game it's pretty well, it can be forgiving on jumps, but definitely not forgiving on hits, because you don't have any like mushrooms or different states of being. If you get hit, you're dead. But luckily the levels are short enough that it's a quick run to get back there, but you kind of have to have everything perfect because, as we were talking about with the moving platforms and such, you want to get everything in place and then get to the goal as fast as possible.
Absolutely, and it's something that we've talked about before when people compare this game to Celeste, in that the gameplay loop is quite small. These are just 30-second levels, and yes, you can drag the time out by collecting the capsules, but these guys clearly are not planning on doing that. So when you die, much like Celeste, you just have to start this section again. You don't have to start the whole game again, you have to start the whole sector again. It's just this one level, you and the clock. Can you get through it faster? And this is the sort of gameplay that really just makes for these great races where you've got these close times. VeganTyler could very reasonably put up a time that is sub 10 as well, and we could be looking at a similar situation to the last race where they were literally the same time to the microsecond.
Yeah, that was absolutely crazy, and we had thoughts of like, oh my gosh, what do we do now? But luckily that was kind of in the middle of the run, so they had plenty of time to get a better time and be able to differentiate that a little bit more clearly between the runners, and we did have a clear winner to that one. And hopefully we are going to start to see some closer times. Hopefully VeganTyler is just going to keep going on this and optimizing, because I would love to see a high score from him to kind of keep this race a little bit closer.
Yeah, I would love to see him put in a new PB. You can see it in his face, and this is the thing when runners have their face cams up. You can see the emotion, and I'm starting to get a little bit worried about Tyler. He's getting a little bit slow, and he looks a little bit unhappy with himself at the moment. So I think he just needs to put up... Yeah, exactly. And he needs to put up a good time, try to bring himself back in the game mentally. Because again, and this is for all speedrunning, not just racing, but the mental fortitude required is absolutely immense. And if you keep seeing Tyler, every time he finishes the level, he sees how fast Grondious is and how much faster than Tyler's PB he is, it's going to demotivate him, and he needs to get himself out of that head.
Yeah, he definitely does look demoralized, and so far he's seen several new PBs from Grondious in the time that he's gotten to the higher score. Even though it is his lowest, it's always been higher than Grondious. I don't think he's ever posted a shorter time than Grondious in this particular match, so that has got to be very demotivating for him. But hopefully he can turn that attitude around and think, okay, this is an opportunity to make a huge PB all at once. And we have seen that in previous matches. He just needs to find the right movements, the right tech, the right inputs, and execute it perfectly in order to just get there. But it does look like you're right, he is taking some things a little bit slow. There are some hesitations in certain areas, but hopefully he can just grab it all together and get that really good run going.
Yeah, and you know, that would then be a huge boost to him as well if he did manage to post that faster time. But also, what would it do to Grondious? Because Grondious has had this comfortable lead now for a while. So if Tyler did suddenly put a time that was better than Grondious, and then Grondious finishes the level, sees that time difference, how is Grondious going to feel? You know, they've only got just over 6 minutes left. We should be seeing now the times getting closer and closer together. And I really want to see Tyler just put just a microsecond up on Grondious, just to put a little bit of sweat under his collar and see how he copes under that sort of pressure.
Yeah, that would be something indeed. I would really like to see how Grondious will react, but since he's been having the highest or the lowest time thus far in this match, I expect it will probably just spur him on instead of worrying him, because he's taken a lot of time to optimize the movement and has just been consistently really improving his PB throughout this match.
Yeah, and I mean, that's how I get when I'm running games, especially when I picked this one up a couple of days ago. You know, you finish the level, you see the leaderboard, and you see someone's like 0.2 seconds ahead of you, and you're like, I know where I can make up that time. And then you start figuring it out and working it out as you go, and then you start climbing that leaderboard, and then suddenly someone's, I don't know, another 0.3 seconds ahead of you. You're like, okay, where can I work that out? And I wonder if that's what's going through Tyler's head. I wonder if he's thinking, you know, is Grondious just playing better than me? Is he getting better inputs and better sort of opportunities from the timings of how levels are lining up for him because of his speed? Or is he running a different route? Because it's way too late now for Tyler to start looking for a new route.
Yeah, that is a big question in this, and we know that Tyler's been exploring equally as well as Grondious, but there might be some uncertainty there, whether it's the route or the optimization of a particular route. You know, which way is going to get him the fastest time, and I think that that uncertainty is probably one of the biggest demotivators that, well, could be a demotivator. I think that some people would find it a great challenge and quite exciting, but then again, in a normal situation, you wouldn't just have 30 minutes to find it. You'd have as much gaming time as you want. So hopefully he isn't too worried, and hopefully he'll get a better time shortly.
Yeah, and you know, with a game that's as new as this as well, you just never know what's going to happen. You just don't. You know, I know for a fact that I've spoken to some runners that do run Celeste, and they've said that the skill hasn't transferred despite the similarity in look, but the dash dagger just makes such a big difference for those individuals.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I'm really surprised to hear that, actually, that Celeste runners would say that the skill doesn't transfer, because they do seem to be a little bit similar in the way of the movement is extremely fluid. They have jumping and running happening, but there are different moves definitely in Celeste where you can, I think, double and triple jump. And this one doesn't have that. I think you just have the dash dagger.
Yeah, it's just the dash dagger. You really cling to walls if you hit them as well. You need to be so careful when you dash into a wall. You must not hold the direction of that wall, because your character will grab that wall and you will slow down. And you'll see things like here with Grondious as he makes that climb there. You can see just those little frame lags from the character in between jumps there. He didn't make it up and didn't throw the dagger fast enough. And each one of those frames adds up, obviously. It each has a time value. And it's those sort of optimizations that can really, really change a game and change a run for a player.
Yeah, indeed. And that's what we were talking about earlier, about having those animations, choosing which animations to play and or which movement skills, so that you kind of avoid as much tiny lags or animation timings as possible, and like balance that with the need for speed in these. So it looks like Grondious is really kind of experimenting with stuff, trying to go different ways to shave off even more time. And Tyler, I know Team Tyler's in the chat and they're excited. Maybe you can lend him your energy and your virtual cheers so that he gets a better time. I really want him to put a better time on the board and get closer to Grondious's.
Yeah, he's been stuck on this PB for quite a while now, and I just want to see him get something for himself now, more than for the tournament. Just for himself, just so that he can say, look, I've had this 1198 for a very long time now. I've been hitting 14, 13 second runs. That last one was a 12 second, and it's just, he doesn't seem to be improving. And I just feel, I can't imagine what's going on in his head at the moment. I really, really can't. I know that Team Tyler seem to have ideas of what he may or may not be thinking, but at the moment, all he should be thinking is, how can I get faster? What am I doing wrong? Is it a frame input issue?
Indeed, and I think probably now he's wondering, geez, is this the wrong route? But there's no time to change it. Less than 2 minutes left to go, and he's struggling, still struggling with this route here. And a 2-second difference is pretty big between these runners. So it's probably, he's thinking it's got to be a route issue because he's doing his best, it seems, to get through there.
Most definitely, yeah. And like you say, when you're looking at times that big in a race this close, it's like we were talking about the other day with the Olympics and the 100-yard dash, 100-meter dash, sorry, where, you know, when you're looking at the difference in times, it's microseconds. And that's how it is in this game. So when you've got a gap as big as 2 seconds, you've got to think, is it a route issue? Is it an input issue? Where is the actual core of this issue? But with less than a minute left on the clock, I cannot see Tyler working this out.
No, and it's a bit sad, but I'm sure he'll be watching this video and kind of going back over it and watching what Grondious has been doing to get the time that he's gotten and see how he can maybe have improved for the next match. But yeah, I don't see him doing it. We're having less and less time now for him to find it. Come on, you have 30 seconds, you can do it.
That could have been a new decent PB for him there, but he just missed that last dagger dash. It's such a shame.
Indeed, indeed. Okay, seconds to go. Can he do it? Can he get there? And I think last try. No.
It doesn't look like it's going to happen, unfortunately, but great game from Grondious there, getting that sub-10 time on quite a long level. Genuinely a very impressive go. I still think that 9.5 is out there. Some of the chat think the sub-9 is out there, but now that this game is released on Steam for less than 10 English pounds, you can go and prove it. Go and get your own times up on these leaderboards, guys. Go and make it work. Alright? So, what is going to happen now is we are going to take a very, very brief break. We're going to look at our other top 16 match for the next period of time. It's going to be 28 Kotok versus Game Guy, who is, as I've mentioned, has supported us all the way through in chat. And then one of those two is going to face Grondious in the first quarterfinal of the tournament. So we'll be back very shortly.